Okay, so Lisa, you kind of jaws dropped when you talked about what you said November would be for CPUs versus now. I think I just need you to say it to people because I was astonished when I heard it on the call.
Well, first of all, Jim, we had a great start of the year. It's really an exciting time for AI. And I think I've been on this program a few times, Jim, and I've told you guys that we are at the very early innings of AI. And you always ask me, like, what does that mean? What does early innings mean? And I think what we can say now for sure is we are seeing that inflection point in the market where, large enterprises are really starting to benefit that AI can really bring to their businesses. And you're seeing the adoption rate really increase. And what that means is you need a lot of compute. And, we're always very excited to be here to talk about our accelerator roadmap and, the large market that's available there. But what we're also seeing is that you need a lot of CPU compute, which is really the place where we have such a strong portfolio. So you've heard about agents. I can say agents are really driving tremendous demand in the overall AI adoption cycle, and we're very excited to be in the middle of it.
Well, let's talk about the cycle, because one of the things that happened that you mentioned is that we had thought the CPU to GPU ratio, 1 to 4, 1 to 8, is closer 1 to 1. Can you tell people what that means in terms of the sheer number of CPUs that we need now when we have agents and we have the data center?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jim, think about it this way. When we're using AI, every time we use AI, we're asking it questions and it's returning answers for us. But now, with the power of the new models, we can actually have these agents where each of us could have, 2 or 3 or even 5 or 10 agents. And those agents are doing work on behalf of, all of our employees and each of us. And what that means is you need more CPU compute as well, which is the general purpose processing around that. So, you mentioned we are always watching this market. We're constantly talking to our customers, constantly looking at new workloads. And as recently as last year, in November, we thought the CPU TAM was going to be, let's call it, growing at about 18 to 20%, which, by the way, was a much higher number than people previously thought. And now what we're seeing is, we think that rate is doubling, and we're seeing that the CPU market may be over $120 billion by the time we get to 2030, growing at over 35%. And it just tells you how much AI is actually doing. So from my standpoint, I think it's really a validation of everything that we believed. But what's happening is the usefulness, the utility of AI is actually increasing at even a faster pace than we originally thought 6 months ago.
The bar was high, as you and I know. We broke these numbers together. I mean, obviously, an interesting initial reaction, but it got there in the end. So they cleared the bar, and they've managed to earn themselves, as far as the stock, quite a number of price target boosts and upgrades here. Just walk us through the reaction.
Good morning, Sam. And as you said, a little muted response yesterday. We're sort of looking for some direction, perhaps wanted to hear from Lisa Su herself. But AMD having a really nice start to the day. They're up almost 15%. If they can hold this gain they currently have, it will be their best post-earnings reaction since 2019. So in about 7 years here. But let's go through the numbers, and then I'll take you through some of the analyst commentary. EPS came in at $1.37. That was better than the $1.29 expected. Revenue came in at $10.25 billion. That also bested expectations and was up 38% from a year ago. Data center sales increased 57%, up to $5.8 billion. Net income rose to $1.38 billion. All of these metrics better than expected. For the second quarter, their guidance also better than what the street was looking for. They're expecting about $11.2 billion in revenue. Expectation was for about $10.5 billion. Lisa Su coming out and saying that the data center unit is now what she called the primary driver of our revenue and earnings growth, saying looking ahead, we expect server growth to accelerate meaningfully as we scale supply to meet demand. She also said the company has what she called strong and increasing confidence in its ability to reach tens of billions of dollars in data center revenue in the next year and to exceed their long-term growth targets of greater than 80% in the coming years. And Sam, we both remember when she first came out with that number, the response that it got. So maintaining that confidence there. Of course, AMD has been on a tear, more than tripling over the past year, including a 66% jump in 2026 before today's move. But let's talk about some some of the commentary. A lot of bullish thoughts here from the analyst community. A lot of bullish thoughts before the report, too, but some changes. Seaport becoming bullish. They were neutral. They're now bullish, up to a buy from a neutral rating and a $430 price target. Right now, we're trading at $409, saying in hindsight, Intel's results were a clear signal that AMD's business was picking up. Now they've acknowledged it. They are particularly excited that they've secured manufacturing capacity from TSMC, saying that that is a crucial development because it's apparent that the chip demand is very strong, but a company cannot fully capitalize on that unless it can make enough chips. Goldman Sachs upgrading to buy from a neutral, price target up to $450. That was from $240. They have a 27% now implied upside. They also point to their CPU business, saying it expects the company to be a major beneficiary of the surge in agentic AI. Bernstein also turning bullish, upgraded to buy from hold, price target up to $525, Sam. But a couple questions remain about that GPU business. Morgan Stanley, bullish on the company, but said that the world has changed. And they have what matters is the rack scale launch in the second half, which they continue to view as what they call a show me story, given inclusive customer feedback. Jeffries also rating AMD a buy, but agreeing that, quote, GPU execution in the back half remains the key swing factor. So still some things the analyst community is looking at, but the sell side overwhelmingly, along with investors, very pleased with this report, Sam.
Yeah, it was interesting how Jeffrey said the beat and raise wasn't as large as some estimates, which makes you wonder why we saw that reaction straight off the back of the numbers as you read them out, Marley. But then obviously subsequently, as we got a little bit more details and Lisa Su's call went on, we got a little bit more clarity, maybe reassurance, particularly around memory, which I think she addressed also quite well too. So nice reaction in the stock today.
The run-up has been incredible. This company has multiple catalysts and tailwinds. Of course, this data center CPU trend has helped to catch fire right along with the Intel run we've just recently seen. But this is a company that's really just at the precipice of fully benefiting from its data center AI business. And I think a lot of the market, Josh, has been patiently waiting for Lisa to be maybe more bullish with her forecasts around the Instinct, its GPU line and its future rack scale systems. But I actually think every number you read out, as I listened, it seemed like a beat. I really didn't see what they missed besides a slightly higher CapEx, which has become the norm these days.
Yeah, as you're talking, we've now flipped into the green. Now we're up about 2%, Dan. What that all-important data center business, Dan, what do you think growth and margins look like in the quarters ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think she really mapped out a plan for 3 to 5 years of like 60% growth. And, I think they're sitting in the 50s right now. And people want to see that number, they want to see that kind of, doubling almost that NVIDIA had, doubling, tripling, triple digit. But she's more conservative. We know that. She's taken that approach. And the margins, the guide was right in line. I mean, look, there's a lot to manage right now with supply chain. There's a lot of concerns. Every part of that constrained supply chain gives pricing power up the stack and puts pressure on Lisa and the AMD team to manage that. But it looks like they are planning out to eke out a little bit better margins next quarter than expected. And I think she'll continue as the business scales to be able to optimize that supply chain and get better margins. And that'll be something investors will want to keep an eye on.
How competitive, Dan, is Lisa Su's AI roadmap now? Compare and contrast with, let's say, rivals like NVIDIA. How do you sort of think through that? How do you frame it?
Yeah, it's continuing to evolve. But first of all, I think it's important to frame the fact that right now, just about any AI chip that can be built will be sold. We saw that run up of Qualcomm on its news. We're seeing all the enthusiasm for Intel's foundry business. This is because the expectation is every chip that can be basically assembled and shipped is going to sell. Now, Lisa and the AMD team, this is not a case of them just selling because they have a chip. This is a very competitive product. We've done a number of evaluations inside our Signal 65 lab of their hardware on, open source models, and we've seen really good results. And there's been a wide swath of published results that show the MI product as very competitive in certain cases in training and definitely in inference. So we think that there's a possibility 10% of the market could go to AMD in the coming years. So this becomes a multi-8-figure billion-dollar story for their data center AI products.
The star of the show was really the CPU story. I know for the past whole year, everyone, including media, has just been focused on the GPU. This is where they'll compete with NVIDIA. But over the last 2 quarters, we have been calling out that this is going to be the year of CPU for them, and it did pan out. What's really stood apart was they almost doubled, or actually exactly doubled the TAM for CPU in less than a year than what they had given the numbers just like 9 months ago. They also doubled the growth rate expectations that comes with this larger TAM, again, in less than a year ago, what they provided. So that is what is going to be really driving the growth for them this year. The GPU story, again, is just a 4Q26 or a 27 weighted phenomenon. So this is what is really driving past all the expectations that people had on the street in terms of revenue growth for their overall data center business.
The stock up 17% today, up 95% year to date, and up 325% on a trailing 12-month basis. Just a rip. Market cap $680 billion.
I'm so glad you bring that up because it has handily outperformed NVIDIA, which of course has become kind of the benchmark for chip and AI. So when it comes down to that, Kunjan, is it fair to compare AMD to NVIDIA, or are investors kind of doing themselves a disservice by always using NVIDIA as the benchmark for AMD?
It is fair. I mean, look, that is the only number two GPU provider out there, right? So by default, you are going to compare to that. But what I think people were missing for the last 2-3 quarters, where the only focus was toward the GPUs and not towards the CPU, which is really AMD's bread and butter. This is where they have really made their name and competed against the past competitor of Intel, or the incumbent in that space. So we think need to focus on both those areas, especially right now when CPUs are having sort of resurgence in the AI server market.
Yeah, but also because of this recent surge in AMD, this outperformance over NVIDIA, the stock is really expensive. You look at the price earnings on a trailing basis, it's 144 times, and then on a forward earnings, a 59 multiple versus NVIDIA's 24 multiple, which, wow, Paul, that looks really, really cheap.
Yeah.
So, Kunjan, in terms of valuations, what needs to change for AMD, or can it continue trading at these lofty valuations?
Well, so remember, they are just starting with they will be just starting with their server level AI GPU solution shipping in second half, right? So when we compare the same stage when NVIDIA was also enjoying a very rich premium multiple. So I think as they start ramping these products, as we get into 27, 28, there would be some normalization expected.
Hey, Kunjan, also in your space today, NVIDIA has bought $500 million worth of rights for shares in Corning as part of a partnership to expand artificial intelligence infrastructure. What do you make of this deal?
Yeah, so this is not surprising. NVIDIA has actually been investing in the optical and the networking component and supply chain stack. They also made investments in Lumentum and Coherent a few months ago. And what is this is when we think about the scale-up networking, this is what you connect all the GPUs together. And this is where the pathway is. The more and more GPUs you can connect together so that they work as a single entity, the better ROI you get, especially when you think about low latency for inference, where most of the spending is going. So what NVIDIA has been doing is really investing in the supply chain stack, in the component provider stack, to make sure they have enough supply, because as we know, that's the biggest bottleneck right now. A few months ago, it was power, right now it's memory, so it could definitely come down to optical components being supply constrained. So NVIDIA is just making investments in the right suppliers that they think they are going to work with, so that they have enough supply as they transition to CPU or optical or silicon photonics starting in 27, 28.
I mean, NVIDIA has a lot of cash to throw around.
Yes.
So $500 million would be a lot for a normal company, but not for an NVIDIA. How long can it continue doing this? Kind of throwing out $500 million there, $2 billion there, to companies within its ecosystem. Is there a natural limit to this?
There is a theoretical limit, but I don't think they're anywhere close to that. Look, they're generating so much cash, which, they are doing significant amount of buyback, but for a $4 trillion company, I mean, how much of a buyback can you keep doing to really move the needle, right? So this is, we think, a better use of cash, investing sort of in their customers, investing in the ecosystems, and broadening their reach across the ecosystem.